This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage, your place for all things Wisconsin sports. Now, your host, Trage.
How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming in here on this Wednesday. Hope you guys are enjoying your Wednesday so far here. Hope you guys have enjoyed your week so far since we talked last on Saturday there. We have a lot to dive into tonight here on the show. Christian's going to be stopping by in hour number one here. We got to talk some Badgers with him. Big Ten Media Days underway. Luke Fickell spoke. We're going to get into that because I was searching through social media, and the amount of people that have changed their minds on Luke Fickell and the Badgers is unreal. And it's in a good way. So I want to talk to Christian about it because I want to get his take on what is changing everybody's minds right now. There you go. We're going to talk to Christian here in hour number one. We have Kyle stopping by in hour number two, talk a little NBA, NFL, MLB standings, our final buy or sell for the MLB before the trade deadline coming up on Monday there. And of course, we're going to talk some Packers here in hour number two. But I want to start with the Brewers, as the Brewers get the 8-2 win last night there against the Giants. Logan Henderson was great once again. 5 2/3, 2 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts on the game. Logan Henderson proved last night why, when it comes to the trade deadline, and we're going to talk a lot of trade deadline today, talk a lot of rumors that I've seen, but Logan Henderson proved once again last night why, when it comes to the trade deadline, he is one of my untouchables. I don't want to trade away Logan Henderson for a rental. I know everybody's hearts are set on Tariq Skubal, and that would be great. I would absolutely love to see the Brewers trade for Tariq Skubal. I would. For a rental deal, yeah, I would. To have a rotation heading into the playoffs of Skubal, Miz, Harrison, and Henderson, that would be an unreal 4 to roll into the postseason with. However you want to shake it out. If you want to have Skubal, then Miz. If you want to have Miz, then Skubal, then Harrison. Whatever you want to do. That would be a really good 4. I would take that 4 to go in a series against the Dodgers. I would feel really confident going into a series with those 4 guys. But that includes Henderson. I don't feel... Henderson, for me, he is that next guy who's going. He has the potential to be a number 2 in a rotation. Right now, I think he already is a number 3. You're just in a rotation right now that is headlined by Jacob Mizorowski. But I don't think he's quite to ace yet. But I believe he's a 3 in your rotation for sure. He can take you deeper into games. 5 2/3, a pretty good night. 93 pitches. Could he have maybe got you to the end of that, get through 6? Sure. But Logan Henderson has got to be one of the untouchables when it comes to the deadline, in my opinion, because he is that good in this rotation. You don't have, if you think about the rest of the rotation, the depth of this rotation, do you trust a Brandon Sproat heading into the playoffs? Because I don't. Do you trust a Robert Gasser heading into a playoff series? I don't. You still need to have that number 4 in your rotation. Now, I've seen another rumor, and we're going to get into that one, but there are some other starting pitchers out there that the Brewers could pursue, but I don't think that the starting pitchers that they're going to pursue outside of Tariq Skubal, I don't think they're going to be better than what you're getting with Logan Henderson right now. Really good once again. He's one of my untouchables as we head towards the trade deadline. But outside of that, we saw Luis Lara have another good game here for the Brewers. He had a hit there, a big triple that brought in a couple runs. I'm excited. This young group that the Brewers have between Lara and Pratt, and then if you still want to include, Churio into that younger group, and even a Terang, you have those guys. They've been in the league a little bit here, but into that younger grouping of players. I'm excited for the young guys with Lara and Pratt. I don't know if it's like the chemistry those two have, but once Lara came up, Pratt kind of took off too, along with them. But Luis Lara has just got this excitement to him. All the speed in the world, doesn't chase a lot, has a pretty good walk rate, I mean, just really good eye at the plate, all in all, but can drive the baseball. And when he hits a double or a triple, the excitement level, like he's a spark plug. We talk about with Jackson Chourio being a spark plug. Luis Lara is a spark plug in just the excitement that he shows, in the energy that he brings. Excuse me there. In the energy that he brings to this roster. Same with Pratt. I believe both those guys bring a different kind of a youthful energy to this group. A group that has a lot of younger pieces, Terang and Chourio and Garrett Mitchell. Those are some younger pieces yet. But those two are a different kind of energy level, and I absolutely love what I've been seeing out of those guys as of late. Craig Yoho has been really solid in relief for the Brewers. It's that cutter. He started working that cutter in. Last night, the cutter looked really good for him there. I love what I've been seeing out of him. If you can get Craig Yoho, right now the bullpen, I don't know if you'd say it's held together by duct tape. I've seen a lot of people phrase it as that it's held together by duct tape. The bullpen, for as bad as what we say it is, has held some games together, right? They've been really good when leading late in games. I don't know how, because when I look at this bullpen, it feels like, Ashby had his struggles and Chad Patrick had his struggles, and early on, McGill and Uribe were having struggles. And it just felt like all season we're talking about struggles within the bullpen, and somehow, some way, they keep putting it together and finding ways to win games. Close games. Coming back in games. And Craig Yoho has been a huge part of that as of late. Was sent down, came back up. Ever since he came back up, the command's been there, and now he's got that command of that cutter to go along with the sinker and the changeup. I mean, if he can find a consistent success level at the big leagues, and you pair him up with a Uribe, with a McGill, Ashby, you feel a lot better about this bullpen. Now, would you feel a lot better if you added in a Mason Miller at the back end of the bullpen? Probably, right? I mean, that would just be, that's a dream. That's a dream, right? Adding him in there. I saw his contract I think Mason Miller, if he's going to be dealt at the deadline, he's going to be a guy that's highly sought after, not just because he's really good, but you look at his contract. This last season, his annual is $4 million he's due this year. He agreed to a 1-year, $4 million deal. He's signed through 2029. So he's going to go into arbitration 2 next season, and then by 2029, arbitration 4, and then he becomes a free agent in his age 31 season in 2030. That's a pretty good deal right now for a Mason Miller, and have him locked up for a little while yet. So he's going to be a highly sought-after guy when it comes to the deadline if the Padres do decide to sell Mason Miller at least. But this bullpen has been solid, held together. It's at times it felt like it was held together by duct tape. I will agree with everybody who says that. But man, oh man, they've been finding ways to win games. That's what this team does. They find ways to win games, and they continue to do it. No matter how bad we think it looks, they find ways to win games. And once again, last night, the offense came along, 8 runs there, 8-2 was the final, driving in runs. I mean, we saw Contreras had a triple, Yelich had a hit. I mean, that's something to talk about there, Yelich with a hit. And then, like I said, the young guys stepping up big. It was just great performance by the offense, and then by the pitching staff to go along with it there. Grant Anderson gave up the home run, the 2-run shot there in the late innings. But outside of that, the bullpen looked good. Like I said, Logan Henderson looked good. Just an all-around great night for the Brewers. And it leads us right into Game 3 of the series here. As you guys know, we're pre-recorded, so I don't have the final from Game 3. But now it just feels like the weekend is coming up. You got the Angels. You have the off day on Thursday. Then you have the Angels. And then the trade deadline's here on Monday. And I've seen the rumors. And I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about what I think the Brewers should do at the deadline. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What is your dream target for the Brewers at the deadline? Hit me up on the text in line, 715-990-4654. That is 715-990-4654. Who is your dream target for the Brewers at the trade deadline coming up here on Monday? I'd love to hear from you. I want to see by the end of this who is highest on the polls? Is it Skubal? Is it Mason Miller? Is it CJ Abrams? Is it Freddie Peralta? Who knows? I'd love to hear from you guys on the text in line. So when we come back, we're going to talk some trade deadline talk here for the Brewers. We're going to get into it when we come back. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment is brought to you by Chili Implement. Tackle your toughest jobs on the farmer in your yard with equipment from Chili Implement. Visit Chili Implement and find what you need today. So, talking some Brewers here to open out the show, and the trade deadline is right around the corner. And I want to hear from you guys. Who is your dream target for the Milwaukee Brewers? Hit me up on the text in line 715-990-4654. That is 715-990-4654. I've seen a lot of rumors floating around that the Brewers and Mets are discussing a Freddie Peralta reunion in Milwaukee. I don't know how I feel about that. And we've kind of discussed this over the weeks where this kind of rumor came out, and we kind of put it to bed right away. Now it feels like it's just gaining ground and traction. There's one part of me that says, I kind of like it. Like, bring Freddie back. He's not going to be the ace of the rotation anymore, and that's fine. The Brewers, as Brewer fans, did you ever see him as an ace of the staff? Because I never did. I never once said that. He was the ace of the staff, but he wasn't a true ace of the staff, if that makes sense. He couldn't take you deep into games. He was a solid pitcher. He didn't give up a lot of runs, but couldn't take it deep into games. Seemed like he always had one blow-up inning. After that, he was fine. But he was a 4, 5, 6-inning guy. That's Freddie Peralta. And he's been about the same with the Mets. A little bit worse, giving up a lot more runs. And the Mets, the Freddie Peralta feels like he failed the Mets, and I think the Mets have failed Freddie Peralta. Some guys aren't meant to go elsewhere. Some guys are just better in certain places. I feel like Freddie Peralta is a guy who needs to get out of New York, and he will be just fine. You know, I was watching that game when Freddie pitched against the Brewers, and I was sitting there with my wife, and she's like, that's the Freddie Peralta I remember. I was like, no, this is different. This Freddie Peralta's worse. This Freddie Peralta looks defeated and broke, and he's leaving pitches over the plate that I've never seen Freddie leave pitches like that. I feel like if you did bring Freddie Peralta back in, not like he has to get, the clubhouse will welcome him back with open arms. Like, the clubhouse will be just fine. There's not like you're going to cause turmoil or anything like that. Like, they'll be just fine. And if you slot Freddie Peralta back in as the number 4 in this rotation, behind Miz, Harrison, Henderson, and then you have Peralta, I feel like you're in a pretty good spot. Now, Brendan Sproat did have a good outing the other night there. I thought he was solid against the Giants. Nothing great, but not bad. But you also are going to have back-to-back days then. If you keep Sproat in the rotation, you're going to have back-to-back days of guys who can basically only go like 4 or 5 innings. Not great by any means. But I don't hate the idea of Freddie Peralta coming back because I feel like the Brewers could get him back to Freddie Peralta. Coming back to Milwaukee, that familiarity, I feel like it'd be a solid move for him. They don't know a lot yet on the contract, but the deal has to make sense. If you're the Brewers, you aren't getting rid of, I don't even know if I'd include Jet Williams in that. Like, if it was a 1-for-1 Jet Williams for Freddie Peralta, I don't think I'd do it. I don't know who you'd give up. I don't have anybody off the top of my head in the minor league system, but I'm not giving up a lot for Freddie. Would I take Freddie back? Sure. Yeah, I'd take him back. Like, I know a lot of people are like, what do you mean you take him back? Like, he stunk. Yeah, he stunk this year. Yeah, he's 4.99 ERA this year with the Mets. Not great at all. But if there's any organization that I feel like right now could trade for Freddie Peralta and get the best out of Freddie Peralta, it's the Brewers. It's the Brewers. And if you can get Freddie Peralta back to even a fraction of what we've seen in years past, I'd be okay with the move. Looking at last season there, what do you have last year? 2.70 ERA. Year before that, 3.68. Even if he's sitting at that 3.68 ERA like he had in 2024, you live with that. As a number 4 in your rotation, you can live with that. So I don't hate the idea of Freddie coming back. Is it going to be the move that is going to tilt the needle for me? No. But is it a solid depth piece? 100%. 100%. The CJ Abrams one, I've seen that rumor floating around. That's an interesting one because CJ Abrams, shortstop there for the Nationals, currently is on he's got 3, or well, technically counting this year, it'd be 3, but after this year, he's got 2 years left on his deal. And that one, I've seen the Brewers were interested in him, and then whatever the Nationals wanted was too much. So they kind of, we ain't going to go with that. And then they stuck with what they had, Joey Ortiz, etc. And now here we are with Cooper Pratt. Joey Ortiz back at third. I don't know. When I first saw the rumor, I thought, okay, it makes sense, but it doesn't, right? A big bat like CJ Abrams, bring him in. He's having a great year for the Nationals. I just want to look up his stats there real quick, but he's having a good year for the Nationals. And it makes sense, 294 average. Right now, he's got 27 home runs on the year, 82 RBIs. I mean, you look at the average, you look at everything he brings, it makes sense. But the amount of years he has left on his contract, 2 more years after this year, he won't make sense for shortstop. He won't make sense for infield because you have Jesus Mate coming up. You have Luis Pena coming up through the minor league system, Andrew Fisher, except for maybe Andrew Fisher moves over to first base. I don't know how they're all going to work all that. But you have young guys for that left side of the infield. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to go all in. Saying you don't want CJ Abrams is crazy. But saying it doesn't make sense makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. Because that left side of the infield, you have so much young talent coming up, why would you get a guy like this? But then comes to the thing that I read that said that a lot of teams don't view him as a shortstop. A lot of teams are thinking outfield. Now, that caught my eye because I said, okay, where do you slot him in the outfield? Mitchell in center, Churio in left, right field, CJ Abrams. But then Luis Lara's up. The deal makes sense if you're going all in, but what about the guys that you already have in the room that are producing, like a Luis Lara, like a Cooper Pratt? The question is, how much faith do you have in those young guys that throughout the rest of the year, heading into the playoffs, that those guys are going to be consistent contributors to this offense? I would say I have more confidence. I have more confidence in Lara than I have Pratt. I like Pratt. I think Pratt has, since Lara's come up, Pratt's been really good. I would say I do have more confidence in Lara just because I like his command. I like his ability to see the strike zone. He has a really good eye at the plate. There you go. He's a really good eye at the plate. Pratt, solid. But I really like Lara. But it's the question of the deal like this, if you did go after an Abrams, tells you how much faith that you do have in those two. Because you just lock those guys up for long-term deals too. So it's not like you're going to let them sit. You're not going to have them on the bench. Maybe a Joey Ortiz gets moved. That could be an option. I hate to move Joey because I really do like Joey and he is starting to hit the baseball. But since he's starting to hit the baseball, maybe it's the right time to move on from Joey Ortiz, which then opens up a spot for a guy like CJ Abrams. Maybe you bring him in as not a long-term. You have him for a few years, but maybe he's not your long-term option over there. Maybe you try to flip him in the offseason. Who knows? You never know. But it's just a weird rumor, I thought, just because right now, if you think about the Brewers' needs, if you look at the Brewers' needs on this roster, I would say you could still be in the market for a big bat, a big power bat. Where that power bat's going to slot in, I guess that's a question mark right now. You don't want to say, like I just mentioned, there was CJ Abrams. Like, I don't want to say I wouldn't take CJ Abrams. Like, you definitely would. That's a huge bat to add in this lineup. But it just doesn't make sense. So you got to bring in a guy that makes sense to slot in. DH spot's the one spot I keep coming back to. Currently held down by Christian Yelich. You can add a bench bat. Maybe it's a guy like we've mentioned a million times, Paredes. Maybe you do bring in an Abrams. Maybe he starts at third. Maybe Joey Ortiz goes to the bench. Not a bad guy to bring off the bench either. But if you think about the Brewers' needs, I think starting pitcher. I think they should still target a starting pitcher out there. You definitely need to go at a reliever, as you should at every deadline if you're a contender. Those are the two spots I'm really looking at. Offensively, you got a lot of depth in a lot of places. Can you find a rental bat out there that you can bring in for a year, maybe two? That could be an Abrams, because by the time that, unless you feel like Jesus Mate is going to be ready by next season, you could maybe bring in an Abrams, have him for the rest of this year, leading into next year. And then 2028, you look to flip him as he, as a year left of his contract before he hits free agency. You look to flip him when you are bringing up a guy like Mate. Definitely an option for this Brewers team. The other one I was interested, I've seen a lot of people talking about this one, Gary Sanchez, because the catching market is starting to go downhill. What if a team called on Gary Sanchez? Would you make that trade? I think Gary is very underrated with his work with the pitchers. I know I mention it all the time with Contreras, but I think Gary Sanchez has been really good too. He's a solid backup catcher. I guess it depends on what you would get in return. You do have Jefferson Cuero, who you could call up. I know we've talked about that a million times, but you want to give Cuero consistent at-bats. There's a lot of interesting rumors out there for the Brewers. And then you have, the rumors of them being in the Tariq Skubal sweepstakes or the Mason Miller, and both those guys would be dreams, definite dreams out there. I did see that the Twins, they're now back to 500, so now they believe that they don't have to sell when it comes to the deadline, that they're going to be buyers, which baffled me. The AL is just a mess. That's just an absolute mess over there. I think a lot of teams, I don't know, I guess as a fan, outside of those fan bases looking at it, if the Brewers were sitting at 500 in the American League right now and sitting 3 games out of a wild card, as much as the playoffs sound exciting, if I had guys who were on 1-year deals and then they were going to be gone for big money elsewhere, I'd look to trade them. Why not? You're sitting at 500. Yeah, you could make a wild card game. Yay, that's cool. And then get bounced out of the playoffs and then get nothing for those players. You want to capitalize. Maybe I'm just thinking like a Brewer fan at this point here. But you want to capitalize on guys. You don't want to just lose them outright. So when you talk about a team like the Tigers or you talk like a team like the Padres, if you get a deal like the Tigers, I imagine, and the Dodgers already said they had something put together for Skubal. So if you get a deal from a team that you can't just turn, it's a deal that you just can't turn down, you have to take it. So like the Twins, it just surprises me. Like, oh, we got back to 500, so now we're going to be buyers at deadline. Sounds like none of our guys are going to be available. Just odd to me. Just odd to me the way it's going right now. But that's the way the American League is right now, is that the wild card race is everybody is basically still in it at this point, which is making a mess out of the deadline because we're kind of all just sitting here waiting to see who is going to be a buyer or seller when it comes to deadline. And I think this year is going to be one of the most surprising. It just feels like as we're sitting here waiting and watching the standings and seeing some teams, maybe they lose a couple games, they get below 500, or they win a couple. By Friday, I feel like we're going to have a good sense, but I don't think we're really going to know until Monday. The problem of all it's going to be, or of everything is going to be, what do the Tigers do with Skubal? Because that's the big domino to fall. I don't feel like the Brewers are going to make many. If their Brewers are in on Skubal, they're not going to make many moves until that thing's done. The Dodgers, same thing. Yankees maybe in that same boat. Like, you're going to see a lot of teams who are waiting to see what happens with Skubal before they make another move. So the deadline might get boring until that Skubal trade goes through. Maybe it's before the weekend here. I don't know when Skubal last pitched there, but maybe it's going into the weekend here. Maybe it's like a Friday, Saturday kind of trade here before the deadline comes around. Last pitched on, let's see here. When did Skubal last pitch? It doesn't really matter, but just wanted to see. Just wanted to see when Skubal last pitched there. So when he's in a Brewer uniform, I know when he can throw again. But I mean, that's the big domino to fall. Once that one falls, then I think the rest of then it's going to be open for business. Everybody's going to be making moves then. Maybe you're going to see some small ones here and there, but the big ones are going to wait on what happens with Skubal, and then the rest is going to come together. But I'm excited to see what the Brewers do. I think there's a lot of good talent out there that they could target. The Nationals, like we just mentioned there with Abrams, or even a guy like James Wood. The question's going to be is how much stock or how much do they put into their rookies and maybe a guy like Joey Ortiz being able to carry the load for the rest of the season and being able to contribute heavily when it comes to postseason play. That's going to be the big thing for the Brewers here heading into the deadline from what they do. Do they target an Abrams because they don't believe that Joey Ortiz can produce for the entirety of the season and they need to bring in a big bat? I will never turn down a big bat, but it just doesn't make sense. If you trade away a bunch of big-time prospects and you bring in Abrams and then you're only going to rely on him for a year and then you're going to try to flip him right away because Made is going to be coming up or one of those guys, it's just the Brewers are in a weird spot where they have a lot of young talent that's like a year or two away. And that's going to be, well, what do they do at the deadline? What kind of moves should they make, and should they unload the farm? My dream, I know I've asked you guys this for the entire show, and I'm going to answer it here. My dream trade target for the Brewers. Man, I'd love to see him go try to trade for Yordan Alvarez and then put him at DH and tell Christian Yelich he can sit for a while. I feel like you got to say Skubal. I feel like you have to say Skubal. Like that's the dream. Skubal or Mason Miller. Those would be my two dream trade targets for the Brewers here heading into the deadline. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens there. Matt Arnold always seems to have something up his sleeve, and it feels like this is going to be an all-in deadline for the Brewers. So I'm excited. But when we come back, we're going to hit a break. We're going to come back. Christian's going to stop by. We're going to talk some Badgers. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Welcome Sports back into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment is brought to you by Casa M Spice. Are you craving that bold gourmet flavor without all those MSGs, fillers, or excess salts? Meet Casa M Spice Company, the award-winning spice blend born in Texas. You'll ignite your taste buds and create fresh flavors meal after meal. I'm telling you guys, I had some ribs over the weekend, put some of the whole hog on there in the pecking order. Oh man, there's no ribs left. There was no ribs left after day one. That is how good this stuff is. Your kids will love it. You put it on vegetables, they'll love it. They have new spices coming out, so stay tuned for that. You can find Casa M Spice at any Ace Hardware out there, and especially at Foreman's Hardware in Loyal, Kobe, or Medford, Wisconsin there. So Christian is stopping by next year. Christian is the writer for the Badger Backer and Badgers on SI. You can find his work there. Christian, how we doing on this Wednesday?
I'm good, man. We're so close to Wisconsin football. Like the dead period of the off season is done. It's almost done. I'm ready to feel alive again, man. Packers training camp kicked off today. Dude, we're back.
I feel you because you hit that dead of summer and there's not much to talk about anymore outside of the Brewers. And I mean, I love the Brewers, but when the Brewers when they're winning, it's really hard to talk about them because you only have so many good things you could say. You want to have some negatives in there, right? So we need Badger football back to have those negatives in our life that we can yell about, right? That's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. But Christian, there's a lot of people. I don't know. I was scrolling through social media and I don't know if it was Luke Fickell's speech there at the Big Ten Media Days or what did it. But I was scrolling through social media at the break here, and I am seeing so many people saying Wisconsin is a dark horse in the Big Ten. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the Luke Fickell speech. I don't know if they just said, oh, Luke Fickell had a good speech, and they look at the roster and said, wow, this is actually a decent roster. I have no idea. But I'm scrolling through social media here on Twitter, and I have seen at least 5 posts of people saying Wisconsin is a dark horse in the Big Ten. Christian, why are people now changing their minds? I don't get it. I mean, why are people now changing their minds when you look at all the prediction websites and they're like, oh, 12th in the Big Ten, oh, 13th, where are they going to finish? Near the bottom. And now you're seeing people turning a little bit. What the heck is going on?
Okay, I would like to preface this, but I am one of those people, and it's solely because I hadn't looked at the schedule in about, since it even got released, just because, they haven't been good, and I haven't cared until we got closer to the season. But I took a closer look at it when, all those predictions came out, and I saw 12th on the media. So I kind of looked at the teams around. I'm like, it all makes sense. Like I wrote something on the Sun Badgers on SI if you guys want to go check it out. But it was like I looked at I almost tiered them, right? Like the first three made total sense. It was Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. Like all of those guys received first place votes. And then the second tier was Michigan, Penn State was in there. I'm not sold on them just because this feels like they're kind of in a transition year. But then it's the fourth or third or fourth tier was Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. And I'm like, yeah, they're all really similar. I feel like they're all kind of just kind of there. They're not bottom feeders like Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland, Rutgers, who, I know Wisconsin lost to Maryland last year, but this is one of those so I got it. And so I was writing it up and I'm saying, yeah, it all makes sense. That's exactly probably where I would put them, blah, blah, blah. But then you kind of look at their roster, their schedule. And I'm just sticking to conference. We're going to ignore the Notre Dame game. The most difficult games they have are probably USC and Penn State. So outside of that, you got Iowa. They obviously shellacked Wisconsin last year, and you got Minnesota. So the two big rivalry games, and hopefully they come out, with a little more juice this year. Because I think we talked about that this year, how just poor and pathetic they looked coming out the last 2 years against Iowa. So hopefully that changes. You got Minnesota, you got Purdue, you got Maryland, Maryland, Rutgers. So we play a lot of the bottom feeder teams. So I just kind of looked at, I mapped out. Again, this is all, there's the bias, I'm being just looking at this with a half glass full kind of lens. But if they beat the teams they should beat, like Michigan State, Maryland, Rutgers, Purdue, that's 5 wins right there. And then they have USC, Iowa, Minnesota, and Penn State. Even if they split those and go 2-2, they're 7-2 on the year. Which I went back and looked. 7-2 was good for third or fourth place, a tie last year. I think it was USC and Michigan. I think is who it was, tied for fourth place last year at 7-2. So I think one of my bold predictions I made at the Badger Backer 2 was that they could not easily, but they could finish in the top 5. So I think maybe people like me are talking themselves into it because they're looking at, especially compared to last year, the schedule this year is a lot more manageable. So maybe we could talk ourselves into, so I don't know, I guess I would consider if they finished top 6, top 5, I would call them a dark horse considering starting at as 12th,
I would say, looking at the schedule, like you're saying, if you're an above average team, you're going to have a winning record coming out of the schedule easily. It's the schedule last year. You had to be way above average to come out of there with the winning. Maybe, you could have probably squeaked out a couple more wins there. The Badgers definitely had shots last year where they could have maybe squeaked out a couple extra, like you mentioned, the Maryland game, Minnesota to wrap up the year. There was definitely games in there, but that was a really rough schedule. You look at this one, it's okay, yeah, you were talking Penn State. That's one tough game at Penn State, but then you have Michigan State and UCLA before you play what you were saying would be realistically the next greatest opponent, right, in USC, and that's back at Camp Randall. So you have a break in there. Last season it was Oregon and then Ohio State back to back. That was just a gauntlet to try to walk through. So you have a breaks in this season where you're going to have some, not weeks off, right? But you're not playing Ohio State and Oregon back-to-back weeks. You're not having to deal with those kinds of games. You're getting that break. And the game to Iowa, we always know going down to Iowa, it's a rough environment to play in. We know the Badgers' struggles there in the past couple of years, but I completely agree. You look at the roster, and the roster, I think, is a lot better, right? You got Posta, he's got a year on him now. You have Catalano, who's got a year on him now. And then you bring in a guy like Colton Joseph, a quarterback that looks really good. But then after Colton Joseph, because I think Luke Fickell and this offense and Jeff Grimes, they've learned, right? You keep losing quarterbacks left and right. They brought in a really good quarterback room to back up Colton Joseph just in case we got to go to him. You have really good guys behind him. And that's where I like this team a lot better from what we've seen in the past is the depth of these rooms is a lot better. And that's what you like to see is the depth's really good. Now it's going to be questions. We're going to talk about the wide receiver room, tight end room. We're going to get in the offensive line here later in the week when we do our position preview. But, I mean, looking at the roster and then you look at the schedule, it looks manageable. And it feels like you said where you could have 7 wins right there. And it feels good. Like it almost feels like there is that hope, right? That light where it's like, okay, maybe Luke Fickell can manage this. Maybe he can turn this program around. I honestly, and let's talk about it here. Let's talk about what he had to kind of say there at media days. But the biggest thing I kind of took out of things I've been reading and stuff like that is Luke Fickell hasn't quit. And I understand where a lot of people don't like Luke Fickell and they feel like maybe he should have quit, right? There's a lot of people probably out there like that. But I will say I respect that he has never quit on this program, that he has stuck around. McIntosh gave him the out, said, hey, you're at the crossroad. What do you want to do here? And Luke Fickell stuck in it. And he said, we're going to dig in deep. We're going to put more money into this. We're going to do what we got to do. And we're going to try to push this thing and get this program going back in the right direction. I respect that. I respect him for sticking around because it doesn't look good for him. I mean, honestly, as a coach, this many years of struggles, you're ruining your own reputation at this point. If it fails again, you've ruined your reputation for the next job or the next job. So, I mean, I just want to say respect that he has stuck it out and he's sticking it out here because, like I said, I mean, Christian, am I wrong saying that? Like, this is one of those things where it's like ruining your reputation if you can't get it to work because it just is a downward trend.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have been listening to this, you know I'm more of a Fickell believer than. Whatever. Maybe I'm an apologist at this point, but I don't look for excuses, but there are things I think about. Like, yeah, he made a mistake by hiring Phil Longo. And to this day, like I will go to my grave. Longo set this program back multiple years.
Right.
Their offense has just been putrid the last 2 years. I was rewatching the Wisconsin-Illinois game and they scored a touchdown in the first quarter and a field goal in the second quarter. And then I think they scored a touchdown in the third quarter or something like that. So they had 17 points and they made a comment about, it's the first game they've scored more than 14 points since like week 2. And I'm like, and this is like November by then. So it's just like the offense is still obviously whatever, but then the quarterback injury has just been terrible. Like he can't catch a break. And then on top of it all, like he's trying to do all this with essentially one hand tied behind his back because he has almost, like he's in the bottom third of funding. And I mean, part of that is on him. He even admitted that today in his media day pressers that him and McIntosh, like they wanted to do it, the right way or, whatever, not that but like they didn't want to have to like, we're just going to buy a roster. They kind of like pushed against the grain or the idea of like, all the money and you essentially roster building through free agency and transfer portal and buying players. They'd rather recruit and develop, right?
Right.
And I think he said, yeah, like obviously that was a mistake. Like, so now we're kind of like, we resisted it, but now, and part of it too is now they all of a sudden have funding, which, that Athletic article also said, like they have like a $25 million budget, which, I mean, if that Ted Kellner said like they would be put in the top half or top third of the Big Ten now, and they were in the bottom third, like how low was their budget before? And that's not something Wisconsin is readily, ready to share how much they put into their programs. But it just seems like, yeah, I absolutely respect him for sticking it out. Like, dude, could you imagine like, hey man, like it just didn't work. Here's $20 million buyout to go sit on the beach or whatever. Or you can stay here and try to turn this program around. It's like, you respect that, but also, I mean, it's easier now because he knows he's got money coming.
Right.
Better not that. Although he didn't know that probably at the time either, right? Last season. So
no, I 100% agree, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is you respect the guy because it's at the end of the day you're just ruining your own reputation when you stay there and if you're losing and losing and losing. You look at the overall record, it's all of a sudden you're like, man, he had a really rough coaching career. He's not quitting on these guys. These guys haven't quit on him. He's not quitting on this program. He's learning and he's trying to adjust now, right? You said Phil Longo was the problem. And I think he realized that. And he brought in a guy in Jeff Grimes that runs not a similar what to Wisconsin was, but similar to, right? Getting back to the power, getting back to getting some beef up front there and some backs in there and working through that. He revamped the coaching staff there. I don't think Tressel's actually been a problem in the coaching staff, so I don't know if anybody wants him fired out there. I haven't seen him as a problem just because his defense is on the field all the time. So, I mean, they're going to get gassed. They're going to get walked. Like, that's just how it's going to go when your offense can't stay out on the field there. But I think he's learned, and that's what you want to see out of now. We talked about this last year when they were winning games, right? They rattled off a couple wins there late in the season, and we said, is this Wisconsin trending in the right direction? And then they had that sour taste in the mouth after that game against Minnesota, and we're like, oh, you took all that momentum and you took it backwards. Now it's a question of, okay, you got us fired up, right? We went into this Big Ten Media Days, you had this big speech, and we're fired up now. What are you going to show us? What's coming next? Is it going to look different? Are we going to see this change that you're talking about? Because he mentioned multiple times leadership. And Christian, let's talk about, what did you hear from Luke Fickell down there? Because the big thing I took from it was his emphasis on the leadership in the room. But I mean, what are some of the things that you took away from what Luke Fickell had to say at Big Ten Media Days?
I mean, he's a very charismatic guy. I feel like every year I watch this and I'm kind of like, yeah, I think something's different this year. But I'm going to say it again. It feels different. And I think I want to say he talked a lot about like owning up to things and like realizing things and not just like assuming everything is, you know, how it used to be. I think I think a big thing he did was hire Brady Ewing to do like the alumni relations. And now he's like, they have like all these former players coming in. I saw Vince Beagle was in there. Now like Chris Orr was in there. I think Chris Orr was kind of like, he talked about that a little bit about how, you know, Wisconsin, like as a team, your family, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know if you have any siblings or not, but like I got a brother and I was, you know, if there's an issue, like I'm not going to sit and kind of just be super polite, you know, all the time with them. I'm just going to tell them how it is. And I think he kind of hinted like, that's what they need more of. They need guys challenging, not necessarily the authority or things like that, but like not just being so polite all the time and just like, if they see an issue, well, I'm not going to bring it up because maybe that's disrespectful to coach or, you know, whatever. So he's trying to shift the culture into like more of like a, you know, hold everyone accountable kind of thing and like work together, but also challenge each other. So like, it's not like just ignoring problems. So I think that's like kind of the big thing he hit on a lot today is like, they realize they have issues and they're actively working to change them and also just keep up with the times, I think is a big part. And if you look at their transfer portal haul, they brought in a lot of like veteran players, whether it's like Abu Sama, that running back from Iowa State, Javon Robinson. He specifically pointed out in one of his interviews that cornerback from Arizona State. He said he's like, they're leaning on these guys a lot for not only leadership, but also like, you know, what they're kind of picking their brains about what they did in, you know, the other schools they were at so they can kind of like get ideas or, you know, what works, what doesn't, and then trying to maybe infuse a little bit of that with the program. So I think a big part of the, like, I took away from it is like his self-awareness and realizing what they're doing obviously wasn't working. I mean, obviously the wins aren't there, but like just the culture too. So maybe like, I think he says that there's been a ton of change, tremendous growth, things like that in the last 8-9 months. So maybe it'll translate to wins. You hope so, but I mean, we'll see.
It's got to translate to wins, right? Especially like we were talking about earlier with the schedule looking the way that it does. It will not get easier, especially with now you got to play the West and the East. There is no like West Division and East Division anymore. So you're playing those scattered out schedules, and you're going to have years where you're going to see what we saw last year where it's loaded. Now you're not going to get Alabama in there, but you have a team like Notre Dame this year. And who knows about Notre Dame? They're sometimes really good and sometimes early on you can catch them off guard there. So, I mean, looking at Notre Dame, that first game of the year, we've seen Notre Dame drop some early games. We've seen it before with this Notre Dame team that they come out a little bit flat. It's at Lambeau. Maybe the Badgers come in fired up. Maybe they find a way to sneak that one. If they sneak a game like that, it automatically boosts morale. But like you're saying right there, is the leadership on the field is huge. I talk about it all the time with every other team in Wisconsin sports, whether it's the Packers or you talk about the Brewers with guys in the clubhouse, or you got, you know, you go through all the laundry list, right? Guys on the Badger basketball team. Like you got to have leaders on the floor, the field, wherever it is. You have to have leaders out there. You can't just rely on, oh, the head coach has got to get them fired up. No, you got to be able to fire yourself up at times. When there's a bad play on the field, sometimes you got to be able to fire yourself up. And that's where, like you said, bringing in that veteran leadership is when something goes wrong, they don't just fold. They don't just cave on the field, because you could see it sometimes in body language with those guys last year, but they just look beat in these games. And I get sometimes you are getting beat down, like against Ohio State or like against a team like Alabama blew them out there. Oregon didn't blow them out. That was a closer game.
Nope.
I mean, that wasn't
in Oregon too.
That was a closer game, so we aren't going to say like Oregon blew them out. They felt good in that game there, but it was the infusion of the young guys, right? Mason Posa, Catalano, those guys coming in and infusing that energy into this team, and you're going to see that again this year. Those guys are fired up. You listen to Posa talk, you listen to Catalano. Those guys are fired up to go into this season here, and then you infuse the new transfers coming in who are going to, you got to have the building blocks, right? Posa, Catalano, those guys, the building blocks. And then you bring in the pieces to finish that foundation. Colton Joseph, Abu Sama, like you said there, guys to help out there. I mean, I'm excited. I'm ready for Badger football. After talking today, I'm ready for some Badger football. I can't wait. So, Christian, any last thoughts Badger-wise here before we got to let you go here?
No, man. I'm ready. Let's get going.
I know.
I'm ready for camp, man.
This offseason, the offseason talk always just gets me like, come on, I just want to see this on the field. I just want to see this on the field. Like we speculate the good, the bad, everything in between. It's just, I just want to see it on the field so I can just get fired up. Goodness. Christian, one last thing I got to ask you. If you had to pick a dream target for the Brewers to get at the trade deadline, a dream target. Now, not going crazy. We're not going Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge or anything like completely crazy, but out of the realistic options, who is your dream target for the Brewers to get here at the trade deadline coming up here next week? I believe that's next week already, August 3rd. Yeah, next week. Goodness, next week, Monday. Oh, man, we're almost there. Christian, Who's your dream target?
Okay, I was against this for the longest time, but now just knowing where we are, and if we're going to go all in this year, I think we go get Tariq Skubal, man. Like, let's get it. Let's. I mean, we have the farm system for it. We won't hopefully have to give up everything, considering he's just a rental player, right? I think they're going to get a couple guys, but I think the big guy, Tariq Skubal, shore up that starting pitching lineup. And then, I mean, he goes, and I mean, assuming we wouldn't have to give up someone like Logan Henderson, which I'm sure we would, but we still have guys. Quinn Priester will be back next year. We can reload, right? I think you go for it this year. I think we go get Tariq Skubal.
If there is a season next year, who knows? If there is
Sorry,
one,
good point. Very good point.
Then we worry about it then. But hey, if you guys like Christian's answer, maybe you guys got somebody else for your dream target, hit me up across the text in line. I'd love to hear who's your dream target for the Brewers to get at the trade deadline. 715-990-4654. That is 715-990-4654. So Christian, thank you, as always, for stopping by tonight here on the show. If you guys want to find his work, make sure you check it out there at the Badger Backer or Badgers on SI. So when we come back from the break, we're going to grade the wheel. We're going to spin the wheel, get some Brewer players, grade them on their performance for the week here. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment is brought to you by JVC Screen Printing and Embroidery. They take pride in their work because your image is their business. Check them out there, JVC Screen Printing and Embroidery. So we're just talking Badgers there. I want to get back into the Brewers. And if you want to answer our question of the day, and that is, who is your dream target for the Brewers to get at the trade deadline? I'd love to hear from you. 715-990-4654. That is 715-990-4654. I'd love to hear from there on the text in line, or if you want to, hit me up across social media there, Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. You can find us out there. Like, subscribe, follow, shoot us a message over there. So we are going to grade the wheel now. So essentially every single week, I have a spinner app on my phone, and I put all the Brewer player names in there. You spin the wheel, it lands on one, and you grade their performance for the week. So, number one guy I got in when I spun the wheel here is Craig Yoho, the relief pitcher for the Brewers. And I've loved what we've seen out of Yoho since he came back up from the minor leagues there on July 4th when he came back up. 2 2/3 innings against Arizona there, looked really good. pitched again on the 7th. He's given up in that stretch of run. In the stretch run of July, he's given up 3 runs in total, and that was against the Miami Marlins. Outside of that, he has been really good for this team. Has also pitched in a couple games where he's thrown multiple innings. I've loved what I've seen out of him. As of late, 7 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 hits. This is in his last 7 games there. 7 games pitched, 7 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. I'm going to give Yoho a B-. B-. 3 earned runs. I'll just knock him down for that. B-. It's passing, right? It's passing. It's still, well, what? C- is passing? I don't even remember. I barely passed back in the day, all right? So I'm just telling you, my grading scale's tough. It's hard to get an A, just like it was hard for me to get an A back in the day. But I'm going to give Craig Yoho a B- for the week here. Looking at our next guy on the list, we have, actually, no more I think about it, I'm going to give Craig Yoho a B. I'm going to give him a B. I can't knock him too far there. He's been really solid for this team out of the bullpen there, so I'm going to give him a B for the week. Luis Lara is next up on the list, and I loved what I saw in the minors, watching highlights, watching all that. I loved what I saw. I love what I'm seeing up at the big leagues right now. 5 hits in his last 15 at-bats. He's batting .333, 11 hits and 37 at-bats in his last 15. So essentially 11 hits in his last 37 at-bats in total there. Luis Lara, since coming up, Cooper Pratt's taken off. I don't know if it's that chemistry between those two guys, but he has supplied this energy. Between him and Pratt, there's an energy. Like, you don't see anyone get more excited to hit a double or a triple than Luis Lara. Like, that guy just gets pumped. He gets pumped. He pumps everybody else up. This youth movement in the Brewers, gotta love it. I'm going to give Luis Lara a B+. B+ for the week. Like I said, grading scale's tough, just like it was tough for me to get an A. It's tough for these guys to get an A out of me here on this list. I feel like my teachers back in the day. They're like, yeah, I really want to pass this guy, but at the same time, yeah, he just doesn't do the quality work. Well, Luis Lara is doing quality work. That's for darn sure. He's been really good. I'm going to give him a B+ here on the week. Next up, we have, oh boy, I should have spun the wheel again. We have Christian Yelich. All right. We're going to do it. It used to be my dreaded Joey Ortiz one, and now I wish it was Joey Ortiz. Christian Yelich, I really want to see Christian Yelich just take off. I want to see Christian Yelich have a second half that he just finds a groove. And he just hasn't found it yet. And it was just, we talk about him going into this year and just the drop-off in production. You wouldn't have told me that. I wouldn't have believed you if you would have said Christian Yelich was going to have this kind of drop-off. I'm going to be nice. I'll give him a C-. Man, that's tough. C-, D+, somewhere in there. You can grade him all you want. I'll give him a D+ on the week here. He's still a great leader in the clubhouse. There you go. He's a great leader in the clubhouse. The on-field performance hasn't been there. And if he was playing the outfield and still, had a good glove out there doing things for you in the outfield, I feel like I'd feel a lot better about him. But it's like Joey Ortiz, right? We said for the longest time, he's got a really good glove, so he makes up for, the bat not being great. He's just a DH. I mean, Christian Yelich is just a DH. So if he's not hitting, what's he doing for you? He's a great clubhouse leader. That's the thing I keep hearing. He's a great clubhouse leader, and I believe it. But man, oh man, you got to see production here. So Christian Yelich, D+, C- for the week. That's where I'm going to stand on that one. And then last but not least, we have William Contreras. Contreras, over his last 7 games, he's hitting .214, 6 for his last 28. He's got a walk in there, 5 strikeouts. Yeah, I'm going to have Contreras on the C line. He's going to be a C. He's going to be a solid C. He's still a great catcher. Still, like I always say, is great with his pitching staff, but hitting right now, not great. I would put him as a C just because his defense is always there. Right now, at the plate, not doing it. But as we know with William Contreras, it takes one swing and he gets hot. You can't get him out. So we'll see here, but I have faith Contreras will be just fine. Christian Yelich is the one that I want to have faith that it's going to be just fine, but I also, it's just trending in the wrong direction to being just fine. So there we go. There is our grade the wheel for the week. So we're going to hit a break. We're going to come back. Hour number 2 coming at you after the commercial break. We have talked about the Packers. Kyle stopping by, talk a little NBA, a little MLB. Lots to get into yet here tonight on the show in hour number 2. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage.